Hello, everyone, and welcome to Season 3, Episode 4 of the MFFL Nation Podcast. I'm your host, Mason, aka MFFL Nation. Hope everyone is having a great Friday. Let's get straight into it, guys. The biggest news of the week, the New York Knicks have fired Tom Thibodeau, and as Mark Stein reported earlier today, the New York Knicks are expected to formally request to speak to Jason Kidd. Now, for those that don't understand the process, that team itself has to give actual approval for Kidd to speak to the Knicks due to the fact that he's under contract still with the Mavericks. So, what does this mean? We're all going to get into it. Really, should the Mavericks deny this request? What does it mean if he accepts the interview, if the Mavericks let him go forward with it, and dive into all of that. So firstly, when looking if the Mavericks should even accept this, I look at it from the perspective that I would think that Nico or whoever goes to Kidd and says, do you want to take this interview? If Kidd says yes, then honestly, you sort of hope that he gets hired that the Knicks want to hire him so that the Mavs acquire some picks back. There would have to be a trade taking place due to the fact that Jason Kidd is on contract with the Mavericks. We saw this in 2014 with him as the coach, and the team received two second-round picks in return. So this will be all very interesting to see, and we should be getting news here in the next coming days, possibly next week, on whether or not the Mavs will approve this request. The reason why I say if Kidd does want to take this interview, why the Mavericks should allow him to, is because if he wants to take this interview, that gets the sense that he's not fully committed to this Mavericks team. And you don't want to have that as your head coach. You have great assistants right now, which we'll dive into later, but guys like Sweeney and Dudley who are capable of being a head coach. Sweeney was one of the remaining top candidates for the Phoenix Suns head coaching job. Jared Dudley was also a candidate for the head coaching job for the Suns, but was not one of the everlasting candidates in that whole segment. So the Mavs do have available assistant coaches that could step up to the plate, or you also have guys like Michael Malone, Taylor Jenkins, the former Nuggets and Grizzlies head coaches. Do I want Jason Kidd to go to the New York Knicks? No. And it's a big debate right now all over social media. My reason for it is that Jason Kidd has been with the Mavericks for 4 seasons now. In his first season, they went to the Western Conference Finals. In his second season, it was when the Mavs traded for Kyrie. Things were getting a little shaky with Kyrie and Luka. The chemistry just wasn't there yet. The Mavs end up tanking and getting Derek Lively. What do they do next season? Jason Kidd is the head coach, and the Dallas Mavericks go to the NBA Finals. Now, I'm not going to sit here and say Jason Kidd's on the same level as Popovich, Spoelstra, any of those masterminds. Okay, you still have Luka Doncic, Kyrie Irving, and all of those guys on your team when they made those runs, but you need a good coach for that. We have seen great teams get eliminated early in their playoff runs. And for someone who's made the playoffs twice with the Mavericks and gone to the Western Conference Finals twice and the NBA Finals once, I'm not willing to just say goodbye to that yet. I think Jason Kidd is a really good coach. He might not be the best X's and O's coach. One thing the biggest difference between him and Rick Carlisle was that Rick Carlisle knew how to get poorly structured roster teams to the playoffs and find a way to make it work. But Jason Kidd is clearly a playoff riser. Clearly likes to test a lot in the regular season. That's why I think we've seen the Mavericks really never be a high seed in the playoffs with him as a coach. So have to look at it from multiple perspectives, but overall, I find it that the Mavs should want to keep Jason Kidd. I think the way we've heard Jason Kidd speak the last few weeks also is a bonus about how he's excited about the kid from Duke, aka Cooper Flagg. So that's another plus to this whole thing. I don't think Jason Kidd will take the interview with the Knicks. This is all my personal opinion. No legit intel on this. This is just my opinion. I don't think he will. It is interesting, though, that the Houston Rockets immediately shut down Ime Udoka getting interviewed by the Knicks. Ime Udoka was one of the candidates that the Knicks were interested in speaking with. But again, he's under contract with the Rockets, and the Rockets denied that. So it is interesting to see that the Mavericks haven't denied this yet. maybe kid is interested in it. And like I said, if he is interested in it, then I think you prepare for the worst, and that being finding a new head coach. There's steps to this as well for the Knicks. I think the Knicks obviously might try to acquire Giannis Antetokounmpo, and Giannis, being someone who's credited Jason Kidd multiple times for the time they shared in Milwaukee together, it would be interesting to see if Giannis does get traded to the Knicks, what that does mean for Jason Kidd. Does Kidd want to go to New York, where I guess you could say in the present they're having better success right now? The PR is nowhere as bad as it is in Dallas, so maybe he does consider it. But as of right now, the way every single team is structured roster wise, I don't see Kidd leaving the Mavericks. Also, Mark Steinstead. For Kyrie Irving and Anthony Davis, Jason Kidd is their coach. They want to be coached by Jason Kidd. So that rises a whole nother possible situation where you see, okay, if Jason Kidd goes to the Knicks, Kyrie Irving can opt out of his contract this offseason, which is likely to happen either way, so he can get a new contract set up with the Mavericks. But there is now a new possibility that now if Jason Kidd goes to New York Knicks, does Kyrie Irving start looking for other options? We don't know yet, but it is something to consider. And we'll see. I really hope Jason Kidd stays a Maverick coach. It would suck to see him go this early. I just think what he's brought to the city so far as a coach has been very exceptional. And I think Mavericks fans in general should want Kidd to say. I've seen a lot of people on X, which is the app that I'm mostly on for Mavericks social media, say that Jason Kidd was involved in Luka Doncic getting traded. Has Jason Kidd probably made comments to Nico about Luka Doncic's fitness or his defense? Yes, but I don't think Jason Kidd ever said, Nico, we got to get rid of this guy. People saying this on X are just going purely off of assumption. There's never been a factual report that Jason Kidd wanted Luka gone. Never. So for the people that saying they want Kidd gone because of that, I can't really agree with that because I just don't think that's the truth whatsoever. But on to the next segment. Jay Triano, former head coach in the NBA, is expected to join the Mavericks as one of their assistants. And this is big news. Jake Fisher got it out. Mark Stein reported it earlier today. But this is very big news. Triano coming in. He was the associate head coach for the Kings last year. And Triano coming in with head coaching experience is very nice to see. Also, seeing the Mavs about to sign a new assistant head coach is interesting because usually a head coach has say in that, and Jason Kidd. So for a new head assistant coach to be hired right now, makes it seem like the head coach is leaning towards staying in Dallas. Again, this is purely my opinion, all assumption, but just to note it all. Sean Sweeney, another Mavericks assistant coach, is drawing interest from the Spurs, according to Mark Stein, interested in joining their staff, or the Spurs are interested in having him join their staff. And then also, other Mavericks assistant coach, Jared Dudley, is attracting attention from the Grizzlies as an assistant coach. Again, I guess this is the week for Mavericks coaches to be approached by other teams. We've seen it with Jason Kidd. We've seen it with Sweeney and now Dudley as well. So I look at Sweeney, and that's someone who you could highly consider to be Jason Kidd's replacement if he were to go to the New York Knicks. And I look at Dudley as the same way. Obviously, I think Sweeney would have the upper hand in getting a head coaching job if Jason Kidd were to go to the New York Knicks. But I would have to imagine that Sweeney would get that job. Again, there are available candidates like Michael Malone, possibly Taylor Jenkins. So this is all assumption. Next segment. There has been a lot of offseason roster buzz lately. My friend over at All Things Mavs, Jimmy, reported this morning that Dennis Smith Jr. is expected to have a workout with the Mavs. The Mavs are also hosting a mini workout camp June 9th and June 10th. Smith Jr. is expected to be there. Former Maverick. It would be pretty cool to see a reunion in Dallas. I think that would be fun to see. Smith Jr., how to put it nicely, phenomenal defender. Always has been. Maybe a little out of shape right now. The offense is where it gets a little worrisome. The shot hasn't been there as much lately. in his previous seasons, especially with the Hornets and the Nets. Played a little overseas just for a little bit. I think it would be interesting to see Dennis Smith Jr. back on the roster. Again, I think just as a casual fan, that would be very cool to see a former player that came in to the Mavericks around the same time as Luka. And, Nico said himself, defense wins championships. And I think Dennis Smith Jr., if you could get him on a veteran minimum contract, that would be very nice to see. Dante Exum also. The Mavericks and Dante Exum have mutual interest in setting up a new deal. Do we bring back Dante Exum? I love Dante. Always have, always will. I think what he did in that 2023-24 regular season run was unreal. The Houston Rockets game, Dante's Inferno. But I look at it from both sides. Dante is very, very injury prone. Great defensive player. Solid shooter, not off the dribble, pure catch and shoot when he's wide open. But with the Mavericks' poor injury luck lately, I just don't know if it's worth bringing him back. I really don't know if it is. I love Dante, and I hope that if it's not with the Mavericks, he finds another team in the NBA that he can get a new deal with. Would this be my first option for a cheap deal? No, it would not be, but we'll get into that more. Some great news. The Mavericks will unveil a classic jersey that we are going to show you guys right now. The Dallas Mavericks will receive a new Classic Edition jersey with the old Nike Futura logo for next season, according to Casey Vitelli. The exact jersey setup hasn't been confirmed yet. Again, this is off assumption, but I would be very excited if this jersey got brought back. This is like pure throwback vibes. This would be very, very, very cool to see. And again, I think having the fans being able to go to throwback times and see these old jerseys, shout out to Dwight Powell and the jersey, just giving out an example right here, would be really fun. Also, some other news from Mavs Film Room, or actually, Noah Weber also reported it. The 2020 NBA draft hats were leaked. This is the Dallas Mavericks draft hat. This is what we'll see Cooper Flagg wear on draft night. Insanely great upgrade, in my opinion. I thought in previous years it was really, really bad. So to see this upgrade, I think it's going to look really cool. Maybe Cooper Flagg isn't the only future Maverick wearing this hat on draft night. If you guys have been following the page, you guys might know that I would absolutely love if the Mavericks could find a way to trade Olivier Maxence Prosper or Jaden Hardy for a late first-round pick. The Mavericks have a glaring hole in the point guard position, and I think if they want to fill that with a cheap, young deal, go get Walter Clayton Jr. from Florida. Now, I don't know if Jaden Hardy or Olivier Maxence Prosper has first-round value, but for a team like the Brooklyn Nets, who have 4 first-round picks in this year's draft, it might be the risk for them to take. Say, hey, okay, we're going to take this guy while he's still in his low 20s, see if he just wasn't in the right system in Dallas. He had potential coming out of, in Jaden Hardy's words, in the G League. In Olivier Maxence Prosper, he was a great player at Marquette. Do we take the risk on one of these guys? Take a late first-round pick? They also have back-to-back ones. It's 26th and 27th overall pick. Maybe they don't want both of those. Maybe they can get a Jaden Hardy or Olivier Maxence Prosper due to the fact they have so much cap space. I don't think Nico would do it, but maybe you trade both of them. I think Walter Clayton Jr. is that good. This isn't an 18-year-old. This is a experienced collegiate basketball player that just came off winning a national championship. I'm not saying he's to the level of the player I'm about to say, but we saw the Mavericks draft someone pretty similar a few years back that had great winning experience in college. Was a second-round pick. His name, Jalen Brunson. I am not saying that Walter Clayton Jr. is anywhere near the player that Jalen Brunson was then, or is going to be what Brunson is now. But take the risk. I think we've seen that Jaden Hardy is not going to contribute for this Mavericks roster. I think he's too unselfish with the basketball. If you could have a sit-down conversation with him, though, and say, Jaden, we only want you shooting catch and shoot threes. We want you to be a Luke Kennard. We want you to be a Duncan Robinson for this team. Sign me up. I think Jaden Hardy's a phenomenal shooter. But when he has the ball in his hands and the ball hits the ground, I've never been so scared. It's almost an automatic turnover or just a bad jump shot. And I just don't see the need to keep trying to see if he has a future ahead of him. I think this is the time where if he has somewhat mild value anymore, try to get rid of him because this guy isn't a rotational player for the Dallas Mavericks. And I hate saying this because I love him. I don't see Olivier Maxence Prosper being a rotation player for the Mavericks. The way the Mavs are so stacked at the wing and forward position, I mean, you go off names. I mean, look at small forward, power forward. You got Najee, PJ, Anthony Davis is a power forward, Caleb Martin, and then you got guys like Max Christie and Klay Thompson, all of those guys able to play that 3-4 position as well. I don't think it's worth it. I don't think Omax is worth it. I think you trade him while he has value. See if you could get a first-round pick, maybe an early second-round pick. I am personally just very willing to get rid of either of those guys. I know a lot of people aren't. I get it. I don't blame you if you aren't, but we'll see what happens there. Another big piece of news that a lot of MFFLs were upset with. The Dallas Mavericks will play the Los Angeles Lakers on October 15th in Las Vegas for a preseason game. Pretty exciting matchup. We will maybe see Luka Doncic play in that game. If you've been following the Mavs for a while, Luka isn't a big preseason player. But if he does play, I think obviously he'll have a little motivation to play since it's Dallas. That would be really cool because we will see Cooper Flagg, probably Anthony Davis. We won't see Kyrie Irving play in that game, unfortunately. He'll still be out with his ACL injury. But it would be pretty cool to see a preseason game in Las Vegas with Luka Doncic and LeBron James going up against Cooper Flagg and Anthony Davis. That would be a very exciting preseason game, something to keep fans entertained with before the regular season starts. So keep an eye out for that. A big piece, probably my most exciting segment that I've wanted to talk about. The Ringer recently came out with their top 100 NBA player rankings. And one of the guys that works for The Ringer, Bill Simmons, diehard Celtics fan. Now, I don't think he made this ranking list by himself. I think it was their whole team, multiple people on their team. Seemed to show a little bias and hatred towards some players. And that one player, Kyrie Irving, who a lot of people say, a lot of Celtics fans say, betrayed the Celtics. Kyrie Irving was ranked the 44th best player in the NBA. The 44th. The same Kyrie Irving that was on track to make an all-NBA team before his ACL injury. The Kyrie Irving that, we're going to pull it up, folks. Can't find it. Having a brain fart. My apologies. I don't know what happened. The point of the fact is that Kyrie Irving is not a top 44 player in the NBA. He's a top 30 player in the NBA. It is ridiculous. It is ridiculous how much the Ringer is hating on Kyrie Irving. I've never seen anything like this before. Kyrie Irving, players that got ranked in front of him, Derek White, Aaron Gordon, OG Anunoby, Jalen Williams, and Amen Thompson. All good basketball players. Some great potential. Better than Kyrie Irving? The Kyrie Irving that averaged this past season 24.7 points per game, 4.8 rebounds per game, 4.6 assists per game, 1.3 steals per game on 47, 40, 92 shooting splits. 44th best in the NBA? It's just disrespectful. It's disrespectful. This guy was on track to make this All-NBA second team or All-NBA third team, and we're going 44th best player. Make it make sense. Anthony Davis ranked at 13th. I honestly think this is a fair ranking just because of what he was dealing with near the end of the season with some injuries and whatnot. I do think Anthony Davis is a top 10 player in the NBA. Again, some of this is changing because guys like Tyrese Halliburton, who were considered a top 20 player in the NBA, I'll say it up front, Tyrese is looking like a top 8 player in the NBA right now. So some guys are going to drop respectfully, but I do think Anthony Davis is a top 10 player in the NBA. We look at AD, there was weeks in the beginning of the regular season that he was leading the MVP ladder. And I think AD is going to come out with a vengeance next season. I think he's going to have a phenomenal year next year. I think the biggest thing for him this offseason, the number one priority is health. You need to get Anthony Davis healthy. And I think he's going to be. I think he is. I mean, he's going to have a lot of off time this offseason. Again, you look at last season with the Olympics and everything, a lot of wear and tear on his body. Coming off that adductor injury this past season as well, I do think that he is going to be fine coming into next season. He's going to come in with a vengeance. I think we're going to see AD in the top 5 for MVP ladder a lot next season, especially while Kyrie's out. I'm excited for the AD year. I've also seen some Mavericks fans rooting for AD to not play well just so they can show that Nico Harrison made the wrong trade. Guys, we know Nico shouldn't have done that trade. Everyone knows it. But root for the players that are on your team. Show them love. Root for them. Cheer for them. This is Anthony Davis. I feel like a lot of Mavericks fans have underrated how good of a basketball player Anthony Davis is. This is a Hall of Famer, a double-double machine, an NBA champion, an all-time elite NBA defender. Respect him. No one's saying that Nico made the right move. Anthony Davis for Luka, Max Christie, and a first-rounder was the right trade. No one's saying that. But let's be appreciative for the fact that we have 3 Hall of Famers on our team right now in Anthony Davis, Kyrie Irving, and Klay Thompson. There's a lot to look forward to this season. And I am very, very excited to see what Anthony Davis can do as a star player on the floor. Obviously, you wish Kyrie Irving was out there with him to start the season. That's just not what going to happen. So we'll see what goes from there. Last segment. This is where it gets interesting. The Dallas Mavericks, they have a few routes to go. They could try to get a point guard on a vet minimum deal. They could try to make a trade. So we're going to talk about some players that they could get on that vet minimum deal. First player up, Spencer Dinwiddie. And I spoke about this on the podcast with Mavericks Digest last episode. If you guys haven't checked it out, go feel free to tune in. For what Spencer Dinwiddie did on the deal he was on a vet minimum deal. Was available for a lot of the games. A lot of games led the team in assists. I believe he led the team in the season in minutes. For the amount he was getting paid for, he was supposed to be the 15th man on the roster. This guy was closing games, sometimes taking the game-tying shots, even though he shouldn't have been sometimes. I look at this and say, okay, if you want to get a point guard on a vet minimum deal that is the backup guard while Kyrie's out and then goes to the end of the rotation when Kyrie gets back, why not? It's not the worst thing possible. Is it the best option? No, I'm about to tell you guys the next few best options. Next up, you can get Chris Paul on a vet minimum deal, you do it in a heartbeat. I don't care about the age whatsoever. You get Chris Paul on your team. Chris Paul was also on the Pat McAfee show a few days ago. Said that he's been training with Cooper Flag a few times this offseason. So that's another plus. Paul has also mentioned the fact that, he's been having internal conversations with his family. He hasn't been around his family a lot, hasn't lived with them for a while, permanently at least. So could he want to stay in LA, maybe sign a deal with the Lakers or the Clippers? Yes, totally. But if you can get CP3 on a vet minimum deal, you do it in a heartbeat. Someone that can fill the void while Kyrie's out, someone who could potentially give you 10 to 15 minutes in a playoff game, you do it. And again, having all these veteran pieces around Cooper Flag is extremely important. That's why I love the fact that he's going to be around one of the best shooters of all time in Klay Thompson, one of the best defenders, and a great scorer in Anthony Davis, one of the best, potentially around two handle kings in Kyrie Irving and Chris Paul. And then obviously, hopefully, head coach Jason Kidd. So Cooper Flag being able to inherit all of those skills would be awesome to see. Again, this is me being hopeful, but I think CP3 on the Mavericks roster would be really fun to watch. Next name up, we spoke about him previously, Dennis Smith Jr. Again, if you could get DSJ on a vet minimum deal, we don't know how he'll perform at his upcoming workout with the Mavericks, but if you could get DSJ on a vet minimum deal, at the minimum, he's bringing you defense. If it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. But I think that's a risk you could be willing to take. The last person, I don't know if he will be available for a vet minimum deal. But if he is, someone who has great chemistry with D'Angelo Russell, or someone who has great chemistry with Anthony Davis is D'Angelo Russell. If you could get D'Lo on a vet minimum deal, you do it in a heartbeat. A capable shooter. Does he jack up too many shots sometimes? Yes, but hopefully a few conversations with the Mavericks coaching staff could change that. We also saw D'Lo. Again, I don't think this is anything serious to take because it happens all the time in the offseason, but we saw D'Lo at University of Miami in some pickup runs with Klay Thompson. We also saw Klay Thompson playing with Dennis Smith Jr. Who knows what happens there? But guys, a lot of Mavericks news going on lately. Just to recap it all, we need Jason Kidd to stay in Dallas. He's a playoff riser coach. He's a good coach. Kyrie and Anthony Davis want him in Dallas. That's the coach that they want to play for. So I think you need to do everything in your power to keep Jason Kidd. But ultimately, yes, it's the Mavericks' decision themselves to approve if they want Kidd to do an interview with the Knicks. But I do think if Kidd wants to take that interview, that's where things get really shaky. So I'm praying that Kidd wants to stay in Dallas, is excited for the fact that not only does he get to coach Kyrie Irving, Anthony Davis, and Klay Thompson, but he's about to get the best American prospect in Cooper Flag we've seen in years, decades. So that's all going to be really interesting to see how it all pans out. We will be back next week with an episode. Guys, I appreciate you all so much for tuning in to episode 4. Love y'all, MFFL Nation.